video today to show intercooler gauge. So this gauge reads the temperature after the supercharger and just before it goes back in the intercooler plate. At the moment the top one's hooked up, but the bottom one isn't. So the top one's reading the temp after the charger. The sensor's in the intercooler plate, which I'll show you after. And the bottom temp at the moment is just the temperature gauge, the temp sensor sitting in the engine bay because it's not hooked up into the intercooler pipe yet. So the ambient temp at the moment is around 18 degrees. As you can see, the air temp's saying 63 after the charger, just idling. And engine bay temp 60 odd degrees. I don't know how accurate this gauge, the gauges and the sensors are. There's a gauge off eBay. You can see it. Auto gauge. So apparently it's made in Taiwan, but something to do with the USA. But still, it's just a bit of an indication of what everything's doing. Like I said, I don't know how accurate it is. So that's a sensor after the charger. That was the reading at the top of that gauge. That's the sensor there, which I'll put into the intake pipe. It's underneath there. So I'll read temp after the intercooler, just before the intercooler plate. Might not be exactly the temperature that will be reaching the manifold, but like I said, it's just a bit of an indication to see what everything's doing. Alright, let's do it. So I'll put the sensor in. Ambient 10 at the moment, saying it's 17 degrees. And the copper just went past. Anywho, so it's saying it's 53 degrees intake temp after charger and 25 degrees after intercooler in the intercooler pipe where I showed you earlier. So I've been driving for about 10 minutes. We got 75 water temp, about 60, 70 odd trans temp. Oil pressure's at 61, vacuum doing what it's doing. Earlier when I showed you the video of the temperatures of that gauge, I'd driven for at least about half an hour, about 20 odd Ks. So it was definitely warmed up. So I'll come back to you after I've driven a bit more with this, see what it's doing. So doing more testing on this temp gauge for the intercooler. Car hasn't been driven all day. Outside temp is about 16 degrees. The temperature for the intercooler sensors are saying 17 in and out. Trans temp sensors 14 degrees. Water temp's 15. So it's pretty close to being what the actual temperature is outside. So I'll do some more testing. So I've done about 10 minutes of driving. from when I just started the car from dead cold. That's what the temp's showing now. Been driving for a good half hour or so now. The temps are sitting real good, so looks like this gauge and sensors are working pretty good. So I did all those drives to test out the gauge and what the reading was doing for the intercooler temps. I did like about 40k, doing, you know, street driving up to 100k, you know, just down to, you know, stop start kind of driving. So the car's been sitting for an hour now since I've stopped driving. Water temp, trans temp, that's the gauge, the intercooler gauge. So obviously the readings at 73 and 60 because the car's been sitting for about an hour. So that would be just engine, or the engine temp, just heat soaking the sensors. But as you can tell, that intercooler, that temperature reading for the air temp before the manifold is still fairly low compared to the intake temp right after the charger. So obviously that front mount intercooler for the air-to-air system is doing its job, and still, as you can see, it's still keeping the temp down on that sensor just from where it's positioned in the intercooler pipe. So I might start it and see what it's doing. E85 life. God damn it. Not the best on fuel economy of this thing, but still sick. That's what it's about. All the fun. How it sounds. How it goes. Stuff, fuel economy. So you can already see that air temp's gone down. Well, there you go. That's the air-to-air intercooler temp gauge. If anyone wants to hook one up, gives you a bit of an idea what you can do. Cheers.